Hey everyone, it's Brother Steve Sprott here, and we are excited to announce that this episode of The First Three Knocks is brought to you by our good friends at fraternalties.com. If you haven't seen their stuff yet, you've got to check them out. They have some amazing ties on their site, and the unique thing about their products is that the closer you look at them, the more hidden Masonic imagery you can find. Their ties are extremely impressive and all are limited edition. Take a look for yourself at fraternalties.com. That's FRATERNALTIES.com.
Today's episode, we're sitting down with Right Worshipful Brother Bill Thompson.
You're listening to The First Three Knocks, a Masonic podcast in the District of York, where we discuss topics for the betterment of Masonry. The opinions discussed in this podcast are those of the individual and do not represent the views of Grand Lodge or any other Masonic body. Now, here are your hosts.
Good afternoon, brethren. Coming to you from the Aurora Temple in Aurora, Ontario. I am Worshipful Brother Bert Tellier, your co-host and past master of the Rising Sun Lodge.
And I am Brother Gino Scovio, Junior Warden of the Rising Sun Lodge, also from historic Aurora.
Oh, well said. And of course, we have our very talented producer, now a Master Mason, Brother Steve Sprott.
That's right. Hello, hello.
And today we're very excited to welcome to the show Right Worshipful Brother Bill Thompson. Bill is the Worshipful Master of Quinte Lodge number 69 in Frankfurt, Ontario. And in fact, this is his fourth time as Worshipful Master in 4 different districts. So you've got a boatload of knowledge and experience to share. Also, you are a past master of Delta Lodge here in Aurora, which is one of the lodges in this building.
Correct.
So, Bill, welcome to the show. You've got quite an incredible Masonic career. Past Grand Senior Warden and past board member. You're also the president of the Land O'Lakes Widows' Sons chapter as well. And I think I can see from your list you've been on probably every committee that Grand Lodge has ever had as well.
Not quite, but getting there.
I wanted to start off today with a very special thank you to you personally, because this past week we said goodbye to one of our brethren from the Rising Sun Lodge, Brother Frederick Browning. And we were on a short notice to perform the memorial service out in Trenton. And we reached out to you, and in true Masonic fashion, you jumped on it and got the brethren from your lodge and other lodges to come out and support us for that. So we are greatly appreciative of that.
Well, to me, that's what it's all about, helping out. When somebody reaches out, you do what you can, and that's part of my experience from being on the board and as Grand Senior Warden. I've met a lot of people across the province, and I'd like to think that if and when something came up, that I could reach out across the province and they would lend a willing hand as well.
Yeah, it was a beautiful thing, and I think the ceremony went well. It was well received, and I was mentioning on one of our previous episodes, the son of Frederick Browning came and inquired about Masonry, and you were able to already direct him in the right direction.
Yeah, I gave him my card, and he's going to reach out to me, and we're going to get together, and hopefully sooner than later he'll become a brother amongst us.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity. So maybe just to start things off, you can share with us and the audience, how did you end up becoming a Freemason? What led you here?
Well, my father was a member. He joined Delta Lodge in 1964, and my paternal grandfather was a Mason as well. And when I was installed in Quinte this past month in January, I actually wore his Master Mason's apron when I sat in as Senior Warden before I was, of course, invested. So that was pretty touching for me.
Yeah, it must have been.
And then my co-sponsor was Right Worshipful Brother Jack Robinson. He was actually my Cub Master.
Oh, wow.
So I've known him since I was 8 years old. And he's 91 now. He's still active. He's living up in Fenelon Falls now, so he's a member there of Spry Lodge. And I see him 2 or 3 times a year at least. And he still gets up and does some floor work and stuff. Last year, Spry always has their official visit on Good Friday, so the last couple of years I've been hit and miss, but for a number of years I used to go faithfully every year. And then this past year, the master had been trying to get a hold of him, and Jack goes down to Texas every winter. So before he got a chance to talk to him, he came back just a week before the official visit, and he had the message on his phone to do the working tools. So when it came time for the working tools and the degree, Jack stands up, and the master was standing up because he was going to fill in, and Jack went over and delivered it flawlessly. At that point, he was 90 years old, so
Incredible.
Wow.
I got to give him kudos.
Yeah, that's really something, huh?
Yep.
Wow. So how long have you been in the craft now?
I'm in my 40th year now.
Wow.
Joined January 1981.
Brilliant.
And it was ingrained in me to start traveling, and I traveled as an entered apprentice, of course, with my father and or Jack or other guys, because of course you can't vouch for yourself, and 'cause you don't know all the secrets and stuff to pass the board at trial. So it was a great time, and I still continue to visit.
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
out more often now than I've been for a couple of years. Last year, I was so active. My wife said to me, "You're not running again, are you?" Because I was back out 3-4 nights a week, and I said, "No, this is more just local stuff." So,
Yeah, you've had a great career, and you've been involved with Grand Lodge and in multiple districts. I mean, what are some of your most memorable experiences in your Masonic career?
well, like I said, I started visiting right from the get-go. I got my 3rd degree. I actually started doing memory work before I had my 3rd degree. My first piece of work was the working tools in the 2nd degree. And my mom's cousin, he was master of Trillium Lodge in Guelph. So my dad and I went out there one night, and like I said, I just had my 3rd. And they happened to be doing a 2nd degree, so my cousin says to me, "Do you know the working tools in the 2nd?" I says, "Yeah, it's one of the few pieces I do know."
I actually know this one.
And he says, "How about sitting as senior steward then?" And I go, "Yeah, that sounds good." But what he failed to tell me was they had a brand new box of working tools that were the press fit type.
Yep.
So I go to open up the tools to when they're opening up Lodge,
They're not coming out.
And they're not coming out. And I looked up at him, and I said a few nice words under my breath. And
Little rookie hazing, huh?
yeah, and as it turned out, he had cancer, and he died 1994, the year I was Grand Senior Warden. And of course, I met all the district deputies and stuff at that time, and it was their district was on rotation, and he was actually up to be district deputy that particular year.
Oh, wow.
So I missed out on that, but did spend some time with him in Lodge, so that was good.
How did you get involved in Grand Lodge? Like, how did you progress to that level?
Well, I was, of course, back then we were in Toronto District 6, Delta was, and I started in the Wardens Association, was vice president the one year, president the next year. And then I was president of the Masters Association. And what started back, Most Worshipful Brother Bill Bailey was Grand Master when it started, but Toronto is when the 7 Toronto District Masters dinner started. Of course, now it's down to the 5. But the presidents would always assist in the dinner, and the president of the overall dinner was voted amongst the presidents from previous year's wardens.
Okay.
So I happened to be fortunate enough, or unfortunate, depending on how you look at it, to be elected as the
They threw
president
your
of the
name in the
overall
hat.
dinner.
Yep.
Yep. So the president from the dinner 2 years previous, Right Worshipful Brother Andy McClellan, he was Grand Senior Warden in 1992, and by that time I was starting to travel across the province and stuff, and I got noticed. And a couple of boys that had been backing him, they approached me and said, "We'd like to see about having you run for Grand Senior Warden in 1994." Because back in those days, and it's changed a little bit in the last few years, it used to be Grand Senior Warden one year was voted in Toronto, and Grand Junior the next year, so it alternated in and out of Toronto, just to give everybody a fair shake at it. So they approached me, and I bought into it, and they sold me the usual line, "Oh yeah, one or two nights a week," and
It's really easy.
yeah, and then they go, "Oh yeah, there's this down in Windsor District or Wilson North, Wilson South, or up in Ottawa or wherever." So you get into that swing of things, and you go, "Yeah, I should go there," and then all of a sudden it's 4 or 5 nights a week, and then the receptions on Saturdays and stuff. So it's, but I enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah.
I think when they say 1 or 2 nights a week, I think that they're actually referring to that's the time you get off.
That's the time at home.
Yeah.
And every other time you're out, right?
Yeah. I think the
Well,
wives are-
it's the same thing we do when we get a new initiate coming in. Oh, yeah, it's one night a month. Well, everybody knows that to really get the full message out of Masonry, you got to visit and stuff and meet different people and see what different lodges do, how they operate. And I've always, I shouldn't say dictated, but I've always strongly suggested to the younger members especially, get out and visit, even a new initiate. Get your sponsors, get your mentors, take you out. The best thing you can do, as soon as you've had your degree, whether it's your first, second, or third, go out and see the degree yourself. Sit there and watch and learn from what others are doing. It's to me, and I still stress that to this day.
Well, I think, again, it offers a lot more impact, but it also allows them to get out to meet other guys. So should they make their travels east, they got other guys that they can kind of lean on for some of that help. Again, like when we called on you to help us recently and stuff like that. And that's how you do it.
Oh, that's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
When my son was getting married, his wife or his fiance at that point was from Sault Ste. Marie, so they were looking for a space to hold their Jack and Jill. I said, "Oh, leave it with me." So I called my buddies up there, and we rented out the lodge hall for the
Banquet.
Jack and Jill, and away we go. So,
Awesome.
So it was easy. Like I said, knowing everybody around, it's great. I still talk to people all over the province on a semi-regular basis, and we've great times together.
I got a quick question. You had the 4 different districts that you've been a master in your career as a Mason. Were you living in those different districts? Like, were you traveling throughout, or it was just, again, because of your travels, because of the people you started to meet, that's what kind of got you in there?
Well, like I mentioned, of course, my mother lodge, Delta, my father there, so that was a natural to go up through the chairs there.
Mm-hmm.
And then after my year as Grand Senior Warden, like I mentioned earlier, my grandfather was a member. He was a member of Mizpah Lodge in Toronto 7.
So a different district, and that's how you got introduced there.
So I got into there, and then all of a sudden they had an opening at Senior Warden, so they kind of looked at me, and I still haven't learned to say that word no. So so away we went there, and then in 1993 I affiliated with Heritage Lodge, and was fortunate enough to be asked to go through the chairs there. So in 2000 I was master there. And a lot of people don't realize, like now, of course, the Grand Registrar is the Grand Master's representative to Heritage Lodge, but back in its early days, it was part of Waterloo District.
Okay.
So Waterloo District had that added benefit of 800 plus members all paying dues to Grand Lodge and stuff through Heritage Lodge, of course. So they had a big windfall, and I guess probably about 10 years in, give or take a couple of years, they set it up so the Heritage Lodge was on its own through the Grand Registrar.
Maybe, that's a really interesting topic. Could you tell the listeners a little bit about Heritage Lodge? That's something unique.
Well, it's our research lodge. So we do, at every meeting other than installation, there's a research paper delivered. We meet, our official visit is in September along with our election night. And then in November is installation night. In the last few years, we used to always do those 2 meetings in Cambridge. So our September meeting's still in Cambridge, and then we've developed where we go to the master's district, whoever the incoming master is, and they have the installation somewhere there. This year was a little unique where we had the installation at School of Fine Dining in Markham.
Oh, yeah. I remember hearing
So we had
about that.
dispensation to have the meeting there, and our current Grand Master is strongly suggesting that we do more of that. Like if we had a brother in a nursing home or whatever, a retirement home, we could actually
Go there.
We could actually set up lodge and do it there, of course, with dispensation. So like I said, we do papers, and then typically March, May. Some years we'll actually do 3 meetings, and we get invitations from different lodges throughout the province. So we'll go travel there. That the host lodge will do the luncheon and stuff for us, and then we have the paper presented, and it's usually on a local topic. Some things we've developed, and it's ongoing, is we're looking for past Grand Masters' grave markings and stuff. And of course, we have Black Creek Pioneer Village, which we operate with what they call interpreters. So the public comes in, and we try and explain them what we do and how we do it and why we do it, and so that type of thing. like I said, the research papers is on pretty much any topic that the speaker wants to do. He picks his own topic.
Together.
So we don't dictate what they do. So that way we get a really nice variety on topics. And of course, I know in a previous meeting you talked about Most Worshipful Ron Groshaw. He's very active in that. Ed Drew is Most Worshipful Ed Drew. He was a member of Heritage, past master as well. So we had a lot of members in high standing in our craft as members. So.
Does it operate out of Black Creek Pioneer Village then, or is that just?
No, that's just a showcase for us.
Showcase.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
It's actually an old building from Woodbridge. They were going to tear it down, and one of the members found this out and approached Black Creek Conservation, and they agreed that we could put it in. And
Interesting.
There's a blacksmith that operates on the ground floor, and then the lodge room itself is up on the second floor.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
that's
cool.
So it's
That's
Road
very
trip.
cool.
Yeah,
Road
so-
trip.
I was down there with my my youngest daughter actually on a school trip.
Yeah,
And we
used
went
to
up
do that
into
back in
the
day.
Masonic Lodge as well and checked it out. And
Maybe we need to find out how to record an episode up there.
if only we had a connection. If only we had the way.
Uh-huh. So there was that, and then when I retired, my father-in-law and my brother-in-law and that were all out in the Peterborough, Hastings area, so we started looking out that way, and we found a nice little house, a fixer-upper in Sterling. So we bought that, 4 years ago, December, we moved. And Sterling, so I affiliated with Sterling. They were just in the process of amalgamating with Frank Lodge in Frankfurt. So that took place 3 years ago, September. And now we've been approached by United Lodge out of Brighton. So we're in the process of the amalgamation with them with us. And that's going to take place in June 18th, the third Thursday. So if anybody's interested, come on down.
Yeah, that'd be a good one to attend. And that would be great.
That's a perfect time of year
Yeah.
too.
We haven't seen the
No snow to
amalgamation.
worry about.
No.
Weather should be decent.
Yeah, and the building's fully air conditioned. So
Oh, perfect.
not like some of them I've sat through where you sweat your buns off.
Like this one. I think we got the fans going here.
I've been in a couple of meetings here where it's like, okay, brethren, follow my example. Everybody take your jackets off because we're dying. It's like, all right, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, every June there's the Hanover Steak Fry, which is a big deal. Most, if not all, the Grand Lodge aspirants and stuff show up there. Most of the board members show up. A really high percentage of past Grand Masters and stuff show up. And I think it's air conditioned now, but back in the day it wasn't. And Most Worshipful Ed Drew, he was Grand Master when I was Grand Senior Warden, so we're in Lodge, and it's hotter in the hubs of hell, as the saying goes. and he gets up there and he goes, okay, all brethren, except those that are wearing cuffs,
Yep.
can take their coats and stuff off.
Get comfortable.
And I went, really? Oh my goodness.
Gee,
we
thanks.
sweated pretty good that day.
That's a great segue into Grand Senior Warden. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that experience and the responsibilities, the role.
Well, the role itself is, if you go by the Constitution, is to attend any sessions that the Grand Master presides over, which is pretty broad. Most of the time you're out participating in installations. A lot of the districts have wardens' nights. Some do combined senior and junior. Probably in my day, probably 3/4 of them split them up. So you had the district would have a senior warden's night and then have a junior warden's night. So we would go out and participate that. Sometimes we would sit in the west as the senior warden. Other times we would be the master of the evening. And we went all over. Receptions, of course, receptions where the Grand Master's at. I've been all over Sioux Lookout, Elk Lake, Red
wow.
Lake.
Northwestern Ontario.
Yeah, up through Timmins, Cochrane,
Yeah.
Kapuskasing. Pretty much anywhere there's a lodge, we've been to at one time or another. So we do that, and after I was elected, one of the past Grand Senior Wardens said to me, he says, you know, you're in a pretty unique position. I go, okay. He says, well, as district deputies, you're representing the Grand Master, of course, so you gotta stick to the company line, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he says, as warden, you can pretty much speak your mind on what you want to, and you really don't have to answer to anybody. I mean, obviously, if you go too far, you're going to get pulled back in and get your wings clipped. But so it was nice in that aspect that I could go in and speak freely. And it was actually in Cedar Lodge in Oshawa, Peter Irwin, who's now, of course, past Grand Senior Warden. He was Master of the Lodge in the day. And he tells me quite frequently, he says, you were the reason that I decided to go that route, because the talk you did that night really inspired me. And I go, so it's nice when something like that comes along. And I've had others along the way as well. And they come up and say, what's required and all the rest of it. And I go, well, I went to the nth degree. That's, like I said, I was out, even when I was running from 92 to when I was elected in 94, I was out pretty much every night of the week and all over the place. And family comes into play. Of course, the dollars come into play when you're traveling. Your receptions and stuff are typically on the weekends, so you end up with hotel rooms and all the rest of it. So I know a couple of them. I said, here's the dollar figure, here's the nights I was out, adjust yourself accordingly, and away you go. A couple of them backed off, and one backed off at the time, and he became, I'm not going to mention names, but he became Grand Senior Warden a few years after me, and did a great job. So hopefully I've influenced a few boys along the way, and they've all done great jobs.
Excellent.
Yeah, you've had a wide reach of people you've impacted in your career, and continue to have.
Well, I just try and do things as I would like to be treated, and if somebody asks me a question or they ask me to help out, if at all possible, I do it. And I still travel pretty extensively. And if I get asked to go somewhere or do something, as long as I haven't got something else on the go,
You're happy to take the
I'm
call.
there. I'm there. Yeah.
Maybe Bill, you could talk a little bit about some of the committees you worked on at Grand Lodge as well. That was pretty extensive as also.
Well, in 1992, like I said before it was actually running. Now, most worship brother Terry Shan, he was appointed to the board in '92. And he had seen me out and about, so he approached me and he says, I'd like you to serve as secretary of my committee. It'll get you some exposure and stuff, and away we go. So I served on committees from that point forward, from 92. I actually was chairman of seminars and workshops. I was chairman of Brother to Brother, chairman of lodge buildings. I was very active in computers, so when they found that out, the chairman of the committee at that time, Right Worship Brother Brian Bond, he got me on as the vice chairman. Then back in 1995, the Grand Master, they had come back from the North American Conference of Grand Masters. And of course, the internet was in its infancy in those days, so they said, there's a couple of grand jurisdictions that have websites. We'd like to get one going, so again, I put my hand up and volunteered. Really didn't know what was involved, but I'm
new
game.
to everybody at that point.
I'm game. I'll go.
Yeah.
So anyway, registered a website. Stole a little bit from here, stole a little bit from there, and got it going. And I was the initiative of that and webmaster for the 5 years after that, until I got onto the board more. And once you're chairman of something else, then they try to wean you off some stuff. So I did that for 5 years, and it was really enjoyed doing that.
Yeah.
Now I get asked what I think of the current websites and stuff. So I plead the fifth. I try not to get too involved because I know some guys like this and like that, and I don't want to sound like sour
Can't keep
grapes
them all
or anything.
happy,
So I just like I said, plead the fifth and don't say anything about it. And then I was on the communications committee for a while with the Right Worship Brother C. John Woodburn, membership with Terry Shand. For a year I did the Grand Lodge Technology, which was more the computer-based stuff in the Grand Lodge building itself. And probably my favorite was the Ontario Mason when it started up in 1993. I was part of that initial process. And then about 3 years in, I started doing all the layout, putting all the pictures in. Then we started doing it digitally, sending the finished product up to the manufacturing or printing plant in Owen Sound. So I did that right up to 2005.
Was this your background in work as well at the time?
No. Just
a new challenge accepted, and let's get it done.
well, like I said, I was always into computers. I built computers. I didn't make it public, but if anybody knew, I would build computers for them and that. So I was active that way, and then like through word processing, and then we started using Adobe for the magazine layout.
Yep.
And then, of course, when we first started, all we would do is we would label the pictures, like page 1, photograph A, B, whatever. And then we would send it up to the plant, and they would scan them in and all the rest
Put it
of
all
it.
together.
And then as we moved forward, Photoshop and all that, so we started scanning them all. And of course, some of the pictures, you can imagine what some of the pictures were like when we got them. Dark
Yeah.
lodge rooms, and you're trying to make people out. So I would
Polaroid copies.
yeah, so I would
Polaroids.
Photoshop them and brighten them up and try to get the contrast right and all the rest of it. And actually, when I went up to the plant the one time, the guy there actually spent about 3 or 4 hours with me and showed me some of the ins and outs of Photoshop, how to get the right color contrast and all the rest of that stuff. So that was a good learning process for me. So then, like I said, for probably 5-6 years then, we actually did the whole layout from start to finish and just sent the final PDFs up to the plant, and they printed it off. And the one interesting thing is the very first edition we did, which was the winter of 1993, we had Most Worshipful C. Edwin Drew. He was the Grand Master of the day, so his picture was on the front.
Right on the front cover.
And the plant had flipped the picture. So his past master's jewel and his Royal Arch
Was on
jewel
the
and
wrong
stuff
side.
was on the right side. So
Yeah, I'm sure you
so
got a lot of calls on that one.
Yeah, we didn't live that one down. Fortunate part was I wasn't part of the proofreading at that point, so
So,
I can take
Point the finger.
exactly.
Well, you're certainly an example of good work means more work, and you've had a lot of work to do over the career of your Masonic journey. So, a good example to, again, some of the younger guys. And what would you say? What kind of advice would you give to newer, younger Masons?
Well, like I mentioned earlier about getting out and traveling, don't be afraid to take on new stuff. I was your typical student when I was growing up. Public speaking and stuff was like a 4-letter word. Don't do that. So Freemasonry opened me up where I can start to talk, especially as a board member and a committee chairman, going down to Grand Lodge and having maybe 1,500 people sitting there in the Grand Lodge Assembly and getting up and doing the reports and stuff. If I thought about doing that before that, there'd be no way. So Freemasonry has helped me out that way, like talking to people, meeting people. When we used to go to receptions and stuff, I know a lot of the board members and stuff would like to stick together, which is fairly natural, people you've already met. But to me, the idea was, okay, they don't know us, so I don't know them. So you get out and you talk to them and get to know them, feel what they're looking for. Because a lot of times, Grand Lodge members, they'll cocoon themselves.
Yep.
And you really don't see what's going on out in the different districts and stuff. So you gotta stop and talk to them and see what their thoughts are. And 'cause I mean that's what the Grand Lodge officers and stuff are there for, to help them out and learn and try and guide them as well. So if you're not listening to them, you don't know what their weaknesses are and all the rest of it. Like now with the new strategic plan, and I happen to be the Prince Edward District Chairman for that. All the guidelines are there, and it's based on your report card that you get from the official visit that the district deputy does. And they actually teach you how they grade them. So there are guidelines. They're not just picking out, oh, you're bad here, you're strong here, you're.
There's a criteria behind it.
Yeah, there's a criteria behind it.
Yeah.
So they're not just picking what grade they want. It's not just based on what the district deputy thinks it is. There's an actual marking formula for it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take that and apply it to the strategic plan, and the strategic plan then goes into where it's on the cornerstone as well. Mm-hmm. So if you want to pick it up and they'll tell you, okay, you want to strengthen yourself in this area, here it is in the cornerstone as well, so you can hopefully get that going. Right now, there's 200 plus lodges in Ontario that meet that criteria, our cornerstone lodges. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to get more and more going with that, and it guides you where you're weak, how you can strengthen your lodge, get new members in, and it basically goes back to the brother, which I shared a few years ago, where, again, if you have a weakness, you go to that section in the book, and it guides you on how to do a friend-to-friend night, how to do an open house night. If you need help with mentoring your candidates and stuff, it's all there. It's all written down.
Everything's there. I do the mentoring here for Rising Sun, and it was really nice to have that resource from Grand Lodge. Is exactly check. These are the things to work with. These are the things to explain when they're visiting, and how to, again, talk to the master and salute and whatnot. Had we not had direction like that, it's just being passed to me, and from me it'll go to you, and,
left to chance.
You always get that broken telephone
Yeah.
where you're going to have a few pieces missing. And again, Grand Lodge is designed in that respect that everything is there for you. And if you don't know it's there, call out, ask, figure it out. They'll send it to you, right? Like you said, the fellas that are within all the committees, they're there as resources. Cornerstone is a great one too. I think since it started, we've been members of it and have been, and 4 years now that we've been 4 terms of Cornerstone that we've achieved. I know Zeradetha was having some difficulties, joined the Cornerstone program, and have now just flipped the switch on their strength. These are, again, great resources that Grand Lodge has put forward that really can bring back the strength in your lodges, and you should take advantage of it. Absolutely.
Well, Quinty, we're just starting to get into the Cornerstone now, so I'm pushing that a little bit there. And you have to realize that, okay, whatever your lodge is doing, whatever you think is a weak point or multiple points, you're not the first lodge to go down that road.
Exactly.
So if you can take the guidance and feedback that others have gone and how they've corrected that's a bonus to me. You're not going into it blind.
I'm a big believer of don't reinvent the wheel.
Yep,
exactly.
exactly.
We can improve the wheel, but we already know that circle exists. Find that model, find that template, and then make it work for you.
Well, as that old saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So
Exactly.
that's why, and going back a few years, it was long-range planning. Now it's strategic planning, because they realized, okay, to get to that long-range plan, you have to have some intermediary steps to get to that point. Mm-hmm. So it's based on 5 years, same as Grand Lodge has their 5-year plan, which is coming up for renewal shortly as well. So they look forward to it as far as Grand Lodge goes, what they want to do, what they hope to do in the years down the road as well. So it's not just they preach to the lodges; they look at themselves as well.
Mm-hmm. Do you sense that a lot of lodges take advantage of those resources at Grand Lodge? What's your view on that?
Not as much as they should.
Yeah,
in my humble opinion. I get from my travels, I get a lot of feedback from a lot of them that they don't like being pushed down their throat and stuff. So some of them have whether it's something that's happened in the past with Grand Lodge that they didn't like the way it went or whatever. I'd like to think that that's not the case, but some of them don't like the fact that they think it's being dictated to them and they can figure it out on their own. But then the next thing you know, they're either going into darkness or they're looking for
they get some
a lodge
struggles
to affiliate because they can't manage on their own. And I think the big thing is with a lot of lodges nowadays, as memberships dwindling, is finances, especially those that are trying to maintain their own buildings and stuff. Yeah. It's a challenge.
Well, we had our most worshipful brother on, and he talked about that. And you made a small point to that as well. He's very much a believer in, we're not here to keep buildings. We're here to keep masonry going. So if that means renting hotel space, banquet rooms to host your lodge, and it helps the bottom line, then masonry can continue at least, right?
He had a great term for it. He called it the Historical Preservation Society.
Yeah,
That's not what we do.
We're not in that business.
We're not in that business.
Yep.
And so that's important. Again, I think I find it can be difficult, when lodges are faced with these challenges. Like, who wants to be the guy that has to flip the switch off, right? And then maybe you get your Masonic pride in the way or whatnot, but it's okay. It's part of, I think, the journey that has to move forward. And he's a fan of, I think, more of going dark than the amalgamation. I can't remember exactly how we talked about it, but he gave his pros and cons to it, and it really made sense because, it offered the brethren where they want to go next. That opportunity is how they wanted to find the joy, as opposed to, hey, this is now what you're a part of, right? And so, yeah, they've got great pros and cons, But you got to look at where you are, and you have to be honest with your own lodge and yourself. And if things have to go in certain directions, there are programs, as we know, that can help strengthen those, but you got to get the buy-in. And some might think, as I said, with, poor experience that they had in the past. I find, and again, 6 years in Masonry now, every couple of years we have a different shift of direction as where we go, because we have new kind of leadership. And so it might not always be what you've experienced 10 or 15 or 20 years from now. It's just a matter of working together in harmony.
Well, society's certainly changing.
Absolutely.
Even though our population's growing, a lot of it's from immigration, from countries where Freemasonry is not big, and we have to sell it to them. And we're not exclusive. We need to be inclusive and include everybody. And I know my mother lodge, Delta, here we have a lot of Eastern Europeans,
Very
Russians,
diverse group.
Romanians,
Yeah.
the whole 9 yards, and it's nice, and they all get along. There's no animosity, at least from what I've seen, and it's nice. I mean, yeah, there is a bit of a language barrier, but that's neither here nor there to me.
Exactly.
They're out, they're enjoying it. We have a meal before lodge every meeting, and we get that chance to talk, which I don't say push, but I'd like to suggest that to a lot of lodges. You get. I think it allows a couple things. You get your borderline guy that goes home from work. He's tired. The wife might be nattering at him a little bit, so he decides, I'm not going to lodge. Or he gets, like I said, he's tired. So this way, if he comes straight from work, bring a change of clothes. If he has to bring a change of clothes, depending on what his occupation is. Sit down, have a meal, actually talk to the boys for an hour before lodge opens up, get to know everybody a little bit better. And like I said, they're there already. They're not going home. They don't have those distractions at home and stuff, so they can come out and enjoy themselves. And then if lodge runs a little bit late, they're not scrambling. They can still socialize after lodge. Hopefully the master and I get pretty touchy on this one. Lodge opens at 7:30. According to your summons, you open lodge at 7:30.
Yeah, be sharp on it.
You don't wait for the 2 or 3 guys that are late, because all of a sudden, I know Delta Lodge for a while, it would get to be 20 to 8, quarter to 8. And I finally said, the master said, look, lodge opens at 7:30. You have your quorum. Away you go.
Yep.
Next month, guess what? Those guys will be here before 7:30 because
Exactly.
they don't want to feel embarrassed or whatever.
Or missing out on.
Missing out on whatever's going on. So I think that's a big thing for me is get the boys out, get them active. I became secretary of Delta here right after my year as Grand Senior Warden, so that would be in the fall of 95. And they always used to look to me for guidance and all that. And I would give it if requested, but I used to say to them, like, I'm only one guy. I only one opinion. If you ask, I'll give you my opinion. And same with the floor work and stuff. I would say get everybody else involved. I don't need to do it. I got nothing to prove to anybody.
Yeah.
And get everybody else. If you get stuck for a piece, by all means, I'll jump in
here.
and help you out where I can. And that's to me how it works. Same thing when I'm visiting. I'll go out and probably 30% of the time I'll go, oh, can you fill in here, fill in there? And I go, yeah, no problem. I mean, that's what it's all about, helping out where you can and socializing and the whole 9 yards. So. And when you got back to the lodge buildings, I was chairman of the lodge buildings committee for a couple of years, and you go out and you see what their concept is of a lodge buildings. Either they've sold them and looking for some new, or like in Colburn where the lodge building burnt down, so they're looking for a new place and they need it pretty quick. And actually, they never ever did end up building a new building. They ended up going into Coburg and operating out of there. But you go, I was up in Sarnia for one, I was up in Cochrane for another, seeing their different interpretations, what they need, and fitting in with the community and stuff. And that's what I like here about Rising Sun is Aurora has different festivals and all the rest of that stuff, and blood donor clinics.
Yep.
And you get involved in that, and you make yourself part of the community. And when you're seen out in the community, they go, oh yeah, the lodge is doing this, lodge is doing that. They're a pretty good bunch of guys, and you get the guys coming in. And I know now, like I said earlier, society's changed, and there's more family commitments and more things to do. So it is tougher to get new members in. But that's what I said earlier. We got to get the open houses going, friend to friends, and encourage guys, and show them what we're about, and how we make a difference, not only externally but internally in ourselves. And like I said earlier, that's made a huge difference in my life.
Yeah, obviously, one of the areas that I know this from having spent time with you is you're very focused on the mechanics of the work. And that's, I think, I would say, important to you. Is that, how did that come to be?
Well, I was always, when I was learning work, I was taught, okay, you do this, you square the lodge. When you're doing, like I mentioned earlier, working tools was one of the first things I did. This is when you hand the working tools out. This is when you take them back. And then after my year as Grand Senior Warden, it was the last year of Most Worshipful Brother Drew's term as Grand Master, and he became custodian of the work right after that. And he started the traveling lodge of instruction, for lack of a better term, and we basically had the province divided up into 12 areas, and we visited each area, and one district would host it out of the 3 or 4 that made up that region. And of course, he was, as custodian of the work, his thing is on ritual and the mechanics and that. And it was as much a learning experience for those of us on the team as it was for the members coming out to learn from us. So,
Yeah.
like small things, like when the candidate in the first degree, when he goes back into lodge after he's resumed his personal comforts, he's now a member of the lodge. It was brought up to us as the lodge of instruction. Why isn't the candidate signing the book? So now
he signed the
Now
book.
he signs the book because now he's
Has
a
the
member.
brethren signed the book before he enters a lodge?
Yeah,
He has, worshipful sir.
Yep. So now that's part of it. So like I said, it was a give and take on both points. But that's really where it was instilled in me when I became part of that lodge of instruction team. And that's, I always say, I shouldn't say always say, but I say to a lot of guys, that was probably one of the best parts of my Masonic journey, was being part of that team. And I happened to be in Percy Lodge in Warkworth, which were one of Most Worshipful Brother Drew's sons is a member there, and I happened to be sitting right beside the junior warden one time, just last year, and I looked over at his jewel, and he had the senior warden's jewel on, and the senior warden had the junior warden's jewel on, and the little cloth with their emblem on it on the pedestal as well. They were reversed.
They were flopped.
They were reversed as well. So they sent the steward out to get the candidate ready, and I said, "Worshipful sir," I says, "I got to speak up." And I says, "I got to blame it on very worshipful Brother Mark Drew's father. He instilled this into me." So I said, "Can you please just allow me this minor change?" So I got them to adjust their jewels and stuff. And I said, "Yeah, I got to blame it on Most Worshipful Brother Drew. He instilled that in me to get the mechanics and stuff down right." So.
I have to ask, was that a slight error for the night, or they had that set up for many meetings before it was fixed?
I think it was a one of.
Yeah.
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I think it was a one of, but
Well, that also might even suggest that the stewards were the one helping prepare the lodge, right?
Could
getting
could
the
be.
building and everything ready, because we certainly lean on the newer officers to help us get the lodge ready for the meetings.
Yeah.
well, that's why here our Delta Lodge, our collars and stuff have the name of the office behind it.
Oh, nice.
And we get the junior guys go, okay, here's
We can read it.
and here's where they're seated and all the rest of it, so they get into that flow. And we probably did that 20 years or so ago now. And they get into that flow, and again, it's Masonic education.
Mm-hmm.
The more you can give them, the better. And that's why now our Grand Master has strongly suggested, I think dictate's a strong word, but strongly suggested at least 5 minutes of Masonic education every meeting, whether it's before or after the degree.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've often said if all I had to do was go and sit and watch a degree and then pack up and go home, and only did it once a month, you probably wouldn't see me. That's where I get back again to the visiting. Get out and visit and see how things are done. And different districts do things slightly different than others. There's some are good, some are bad, some you can take back. And again, if stuff is in the book, you do it by the book. And there are gray areas where a master and or a lodge can, I'll say, improvise to a certain degree and do things. And again, it's because some are in small towns, others in the big city like Toronto and stuff, where they have different challenges and that. So you have to adapt a little bit.
One of the other areas that you're involved in is the Widow Sons. And you're actually the president of the Land O'Lakes chapter. And tell us a little bit about that.
Well, when I met my wife, I was 30 years old, and her brother had a motorcycle, and I had never ridden a motorcycle up to that point.
Uh-huh.
So he had a small Honda, and so we started riding it, and then he went for his license. I went along with him, and it was an older bike, and he went. It was before they did the actual road course where they follow you and direct you with a headset and stuff and tell you where to turn and all the rest of it. So it's just a local little road course. So he gets on it and goes through it and passes, and then I hop on it, and halfway through the course, the battery dies. So instead of using the turn signals, the electronic turn signals, I start doing the hand signals and stuff, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, this is going to be a treat and a half when I get off. Anyway, I passed first go around, so that was good. So then I bought my own bike. I've had a couple since, and then about 8-9 years ago, I bought another bike. And then I finally found out 3 or 4 years ago about the Widow Sons. I wasn't aware of them, so I finally joined. And again, they're all Freemasons. Mm-hmm. We just have that one common thing that we like to ride our motorcycles. So I joined that, and of course, me being me, gets active in it. And I started in as secretary, and then I was vice president, and now this year,
President.
I really didn't want to be president, but the outgoing president, he had done his term, and there's another guy coming up behind me, Gary Crane. He had some family stuff that he couldn't do it for this year, so I said, you know what, I'll do it for the year, and then you can start up. So for me, it'll be a 1-year term, and then on the provincial basis, I was appointed as sergeant at arms, so we more like a Tyler type of deal for the meetings and stuff. To me, it's just they're just Freemasons. We just have that one common bond that we ride motorcycles. It's a little different than the States. They are a little more hardcore in the States, I have to admit that. I do go to some of the gatherings or rallies in the U.S., and I kind of bite my tongue at some of the stuff they do. But I realize, and it's just like Freemasonry. Freemasonry is not the same in the States as it is here either.
Right.
They've done a lot of stuff that we don't do, we would cringe at as well. So, and I know, almost 2 years ago now, where our past Grand Master, he decided that we weren't in favor with them, so they made us take the patch off. We had to agree to take the square compasses off the front. We still wear it on the back and stuff, and we still have it on our motorcycles and stuff, and hopefully one day we'll get back in the good books. I mean, we're not banned or anything. I know some jurisdictions have, mostly in the States, have outright banned them. You can either be a Mason or you can be a Widow Son, but you can't be both. And some of them, again, the Grand Masters have changed. In the U.S., it's typically just a 1-year term, whereas here it's 2 years. So it goes a year or two, and then the next Grand Master comes in, and whether he rides a bike or whatever, and then then he flip it back, and and away go. Like Massachusetts, for a couple of years they couldn't belong, and now the Grand Master a couple of years ago changed his mind, and now they're in good favor again. So
you guys again on the Widow Son side, it's my understanding very community based, a lot of fundraising for children particularly, and other obviously different various groups that you want to support. But we had Mark Vitelli on, and he talked about how they did the kind of no bullying benches and such. I can't remember exactly the term they used.
Buddy benches,
Buddy benches, right? Yeah. And just those are the aspects. Again, you know, I know sometimes you might get the bad rap because it's a motorcycle club, but it's not. It's a band of brothers who have that commonality of like to ride motorcycles, and very much like the Shrine, everything they do is all about fundraising for something for good. So
when I joined, I really didn't know the background of it. I just knew they rode as Masons, and I like to ride, so away we went, and got into more of the ins and outs of it. And most of the chapters, there's 22. We just we're in the process of consecrating a new one up in Sudbury called Northeastern Widow Sons. They were approved yesterday at our provincial meeting. So that'll be, I believe, 23 chapters in Ontario now. And we all most of us do a big ride
Yep.
once a year, and we have a charity that we raise money for. We either do a polka run or just do a 50-50 or whatever. 2 years ago, my chapter, Land O'Lakes, we raised over $10,000. Half of it went to the Shriners
That's
Hospitals,
amazing.
and the other half went to Wounded Warriors. There's a big ride down in London called the Pitt Hopkins Ride. It's a childhood disease, fairly rare. Last September, they raised, I think it was $28,000 or $29,000 just for 1 year. So.
Just off that one.
Yeah, we've raised, well, it's been, I think, Whittle Sons in Ontario has been about 13 years now. I could be off on that number, not by a whole lot. But anyway, it's probably getting close to $500,000 we've raised in that time. So
Amazing.
And that's what it's all about. We go out, we help, we raise some funds. We have some fun time when we ride. My chapter, we ride once a week. Sometimes it's a weeknight, sometimes it's through the day. A lot of us are retired. This year we're going to swap it up a little bit and do a ride at least once a month on a weekend. Bob Cajun has what they call Bike Fest in Campbellford, which is close to us. They have their Shine and Show once a year. They also meet up at Tim Hortons once a week. So we're going to start and just go and hang out with those guys and have some fun. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And it's just we have that common bond, like I said, we ride motorcycles, and that's it. Nothing more. We're certainly not 1%ers, not even remotely close to it. So I can see, and that's one of the things I think where it came about was, again, U.S., where they happened to be at a motorcycle rally where there was a couple 1%ers, Hells Angels and stuff, and there happened to be a photograph of one of the guys in a Whittle Sons vest with Hells Angels vest, and all of a sudden,
perception is reality.
Reality.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
So hopefully, like I said, sooner than later we'll be back in Amity, and away we go.
Yeah, well, you're on the right path. That's
we
pretty
think
obvious.
so. Like I said, we're all, and what it boils down to, we're all Freemasons first.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And we just happen to have that common bond that we like to ride our motorcycle, and that's basically it. End of story. We're not drug peddlers or anything else. We just like to enjoy riding a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, Right Worshipful Sir, we really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing your experience, your Masonic career, and a lot of the great work that you've done with the Grand Lodge and all these committees. And I mean, man, you're still in the Worshipful Master's chair and still striving to keep it running strong. So thank you for sharing that. And on behalf of the First Three Knocks, you're the first guest we've had on that gets to receive this as our new First Three Knocks mug. And we thank you for coming on the show and sharing your insights.
Well, thank you. You must have known that I collect mugs. This will be added to my collection. And I know you and I talked about it, Bert, coming on for a long time, and our schedules finally clicked, and away we go. And it's been most enjoyable. And anytime down the road, be happy to join again.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the First Three Knocks. Happy to meet, sorry to part, happy to meet again.